And let's activate. Oh, hey, y'all. GM, y'all. Good morning, Jesse. The funniest thing, like, honest 30 seconds ago, what do I get? I get a message from TikTok, the CCP spyware, asking me, do I want to give my phone number? No. Actually, I don't want to give you my phone number. But anyways, good morning, Lisa. From northern BC. Which part of northern BC? Because I talked to John, who's in here all the time, by the way. He's also from northern BC, but whatever he's from, I think Dawson's Creek. Flying in the face of democracy, the decision. Oh, I have lots to say about that. You know what? We should do that over drinks. Maybe we should come out to where you guys are, and I don't know if there's other people around there who would like to just go for drinks, have a couple of beers, and talk about everything. If you think that's a good idea, I'll come out there. You came down here last time. I'll do the same for you. Good morning, Megan. Will, morning from Trenton, and coffee in hand. Cheers, brother. All right. So Ryan. Oh, Ryan. Good morning from. Oh, Ryan. Are you in Montreal all the time? Because I'm gonna be in Montreal this weekend or just before the weekend. I have to go visit Mr. Gad Sad and a couple of other people. So if you're there, let me know. Let's get together and say hello face to face. It would be great. A couple of things I'm going to start with. For those who are new here, welcome to the Freedom Coffee live stream. This little experiment I've been running ongoing, much like my time in politics. And this is where we talk about the freedoms that we have, that many places in the world don't have. And, okay, that doesn't make sense. And I keep getting interrupted. And we also explore how we're going to expand those freedoms in the future. And this is a positive space. This is us coming together and talking about all the good things, acknowledging the bad things. But anyways, Jason Wood CN, morning from China on TikTok. Where in China are you from? I hope you don't work for the government. Even if you did, even if you didn't, I don't recommend you say either way. So a couple of things. I'll talk about this more in maybe the next stream or something. James O'Keefe from Project Veritas looks like he had done to him exactly what I had done to me in the Freedom Convoy. So if you want to know how this process works, well, look to James O'Keefe, because the parallels are just absolutely astounding. And when I say me, it's just because I was making a lot more decisions than people realized. And next thing I knew, we had the plane from hell to come in. And anyways, talk more about that. We've talked a little bit about in the past. Also, before I start, I don't know if you know who Patrick Ben-David is. He's on, he's a YouTuber, but he's a financial entrepreneur YouTuber who's gotten into kind of the quasi-political debate space. And I talk about here a little bit. I'm going to talk more and more about it as we need to start to communicate to people on the other side and sometimes people on our side who just don't understand some of the complexities of what has gone on, especially with regards to the Freedom Convoy sabotage. But if I've mentioned before this phenomenon of cognitive dissonance, well, there was a thing I was watching today. It's just a short clip from Patrick Ben-David's podcast where he had on, it was on YouTube. I should put the link in the bio. He had on Jimmy Dore, a famous lefty, like very, very liberal lefty, but he's pro-free speech. Those are the type of lefties we like, because at least we may disagree with them, but at least they'll talk to us, right? And they'll listen to people. And so it's amazing. There's this path, and it's a very common tactic that Ben-David is using, but he's an artist. He really is good at this. He has a career in sales to do that. And he leads Jimmy Dore down this path, and it's a very creative way of doing it. qualifying all these different people in politics. You know, are they part of the establishment or are they not? Because Jimmy Dore is anti-establishment guy. And he gets them to rate all these people. He throws names at him. And Jimmy Dore, all of a sudden, you can see, he says, I don't like this. There's your first tell that you're starting to challenge their emotional beliefs. And he said, yeah, okay, fine. So they keep going through this. And he keeps throwing names at them, saying, what do you think? What would you rate them on a scale about how establishment they are or are not? All these American politicians. And then he qualifies each one of them why they are or not establishment. And in the end, he summarizes and say, okay, so these are the qualities you're looking for, A, B, C, or D, and A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever. And it was very interesting. What do they converge on? That Jimmy Dore, his ideal candidate, is Donald Trump. And doesn't mean he likes him, but he does. And you can see when he says that to Jimmy Dore, it just the wheels start to, the gears start to grind. And you can see that's your tell of cognitive dissonance, that you've got them with data and they know it, but they can't accept it. That's why I keep telling people, you cannot convince anyone with data or information, because that's what happens. But what Patrick Ben-David does, he diffuses it. He uses a bunch of techniques to diffuse things, so he doesn't slip heavily into cognitive dissonance, that he's at least willing to hear the statement that Trump is your ideal candidate. Because if you don't do that, then the person's just going to react negatively. So once again, when you think that, okay, I'm just going to send some data and people will understand it, no, that's not how humans behave. And the Rouleau report, or what I call the Rouleau-Wilson report, is a good indication of that, of a justice who's also suffering cognitive dissonance. Why? He's suffering from narrative poisoning, so he's bombarded with all these different narratives prior to the commission. There's also a personal investment and bias to the Liberal Party, which is fine. Everybody has some bias. It's fine. A judge is the whole reason a judge is they're not supposed to hold on to their bias. But he fell victim to it. He fell victim to all of it, and we'll discuss that in a second. Last thing before I start the first topic, Twitter Spaces tonight. And it's going to be difficult now, but whatever. 7 o'clock tonight, because I have to go down to a certain area of New York that's very mountainous and hilly, and we have a massive snowstorm outside, so it's going to be a fun day. Twitter Space tonight, 7 o'clock. Though for those of you who speak Spanish and you want to hear how poor my Spanish has become over the past year, how come you're not on Facebook? I don't know. I should be on Facebook. Am I not on Facebook? Well. Anyways, okay. If I'm not on Facebook, I don't know. I can't do tech support now. But thank you for telling me. That might be good. Might be good because I want to get away from Facebook over time. So that actually might be a blessing in disguise. So, anyways, tonight at 7 o'clock, doing a what's it called? A live stream a Twitter Space in Spanish. So that's going to be with some people in Latin America who are supporters of the Freedom Convoy and everything that we achieved and accomplished and all that sort of stuff. And hold on, let me see. Maybe there's a way I can do it. So Facebook, why aren't we streaming on Facebook? Okay, done. Stream key is unique for each event. I don't know, whatever. It's supposed to be on Facebook, and that's kind of that's now the second time that's happening. I don't know. Yo no tengo ninguna idea. Anyways, you'll see more of that tonight. All right. So the first thing is the Oakville teacher. Remember that? Now, for those of you who've been here for a while, you know that I was calling out the Oakville teacher a while ago because I have family who live in the neighborhood. I know friends of family who went to that school, their kids went to that school, that this is an epic troll, that this is not real, because the teacher was known as the most anti-woke teacher in the school. He was reprimanded apparently for quote toxic masculinity a year before, and he told his students many times that you're restricted. Freedom Cowgirl, you got into trouble. You said something naughty. Good. That's why we want to get away from Facebook. That it was not only toxic masculinity. He told his students that the woke religion ideology is nonsense, all that sort of stuff. And I said here, this is a troll. I'm not the only one. A bunch of people also said the same thing. But I am guilty of fake news. I'm guilty of fake news. So fake news warning. I thought he was a year away from retiring. That's what was communicated to me. Turns out he's not. He's 39 years old. But the best part, he claimed the prosthetic breasts were real. It's so good. So good. So, from my perspective, he is a hero. He is a hero's hero. Why? Think about it. We see all this woke nonsense. We all know people who just are disregarding it, want to ignore it. You know, that's the Canadian way. Just pretend it's not happening. Ignore it, sweep it under the rug, it'll go away, right? Well, what's happened now is he's taken all that woke nonsense. And what did he do? He put it on the mainstream media's radar, right? It was all over mainstream media. And it forced the normies who don't really engage in this level of politics, they don't understand the culture war, they don't understand the woke nonsense. It forced them to acknowledge it. And I think he is a true hero for that, because so many of us have been trying to get it on the radar of as many people as possible. Well, mission accomplished. So the fake breasts are real. It's so good. He's so funny. He definitely, teachers, the good teachers are like this. They know, they understand cognitive dissonance. They see it in their students all the time. And he definitely played the media. Like, bravo to him. So I think we should all celebrate him. He's a hero. Ryan says, I love Jimmy Dore. At least we agree on what reality is. Yeah, no, 100%. And I was actually going to go on his show. I had some people communicating with me. Once, the hockey players were wanting to come down to Ottawa. It would have been actually this day, a year ago today, February 21st, 20th or 21st was, whichever day was the Saturday. Apologize for my nose. I'm not picking it. I'm just itchy. It was February 20th or 21st that we had 60 or so hockey players that were going to, NHL players, that were going to hop on private jets. They were going to fly to Ottawa, and they wanted to have one-on-one time with truckers on the stage. And I said, yep, absolutely. And please bring your jerseys, right? Like you wear your hockey jerseys. And, that coupled with the growing sentiment within the Liberal Party of people forming a coalition that were going to put forward a non-confidence vote to bring down Trudeau from within the Liberal Party. That's why they invoked the Emergency Measures Act. And it's really disgusting, the ruling that we've seen. But what are you going to do? It is what it is. All right. They're real. They're spectacular. That's awesome. That's awesome. Nice, got to catch one of these lives. Awesome. Thank you, Levitt's boss. Levitt's boss. Anyways, was there any truth to the promotion of the big Convoy concert that was supposed to happen around this time last year? So many people had different ideas. The problem that we had was we were trying to keep official communications, press releases, this is what's going on, legacy interviews, the ones I did in the United States, and podcast interviews. We needed to keep the messaging focused. We needed to focus on end mandates and end the ArriveCAN app. But all over the place, people were, people were getting awfully excited and enthusiastic, so they would come up with these ideas. Oh, let's do this, let's do that. She's like, guys, we're here to end mandates and we're here to end ArriveCAN. We're not here to promote any of us individually. We're just here for this. So I don't know. I don't know the details of it, but I will tell you this. There is going to be a very big festival in the United States. Some people have contacted me that some truckers are, they would like to invite as many Canadian and American truckers as possible to honor them for them fighting for freedom. So I'm going to be speaking with them in the next week or two and see how many of us we can get down there for this massive, I hope it's going to be a massive party. I get this impression or this vibe of like, Burning Man in the Northeast of the United States with a bunch of truckers out in the country during the summer. I think it'll be amazing. It'll be epic. So there is something there as well. But I will tell you more in the future, but very little, unfortunately, because I have the pack of Big Con Canada hyenas who you notice they shadow everything I do. They copy everything I do. They copy things that I've said. They co-opt them for themselves. Like I remember during the commission, and I mentioned this in my testimony, that psychopath, that blue suit idiot, I call him Pat King in a suit. That's not an offense of Pat King, by the way. That's an offense to him. He told us, he's like, oh yeah, during the convoy, we had people from Quebec and Alberta. I think he said, I saw people from Quebec and Alberta speaking to each other through Google Translate. No, you psychopath lawyer. You didn't see that. I told that story like so many times. They're probably worried that I'm going to absolutely destroy their grift, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Anyways, so Oakville teacher is a hero, and thank you to him for getting the woke nonsense, this new religion that people have bought into, or this new cult. He has helped to get that on the radar of the normies. So I think we all owe him a debt of gratitude. All right, so good morning, Angie. And Angie, it was great to hear your voice yesterday in the Twitter space. Chris Guerra from Adopt a Trucker. Chris Guerra was the one who was on the ground for the entire week leading up to the Freedom Convoy, communicating with the police and with the city of Ottawa. Chris Guerra held a Twitter space last night, and Angie was kind enough to join, and we were all talking about, well, many of the things that we've been talking about for a little while, and we will likely be continuing to talk about as more and more information comes out. By the way, War Campaign YouTube channel, I hope they don't say anything bad about me. They've been great. No, I'm just kidding. They've been now combing through all the evidence and realizing what the reality is, what went on behind the scenes in Ottawa. So there has been I don't want to call it massive, but there's been a data dump to them. So check out War Campaign, Diverge Media, the National Telegraph. Those are slowly becoming your legitimate alternative news spaces online. As opposed to, the official alternative news spaces, which is, they're all completely co-opted and working with the political establishment to lie to you. So these three for sure, I know they aren't, and they're quite strident in terms of wanting to tell the truth. So there we have it. And that doesn't take away from the fact of, like in the case of the National Telegraph, there are people who have opinions we may or may not disagree with, but in terms of objective fact, they seem to all be doing their best and with the best of intention. All right, the Rouleau report, or what I call the Rouleau Wilson report. And it's amazing how many people don't see it. And that's why I posted that TED Talk presentation a couple of days ago. When I pulled over, I was driving down. I pulled over at a stop to get coffee and grab a bite to eat. It's a TED Talk about misdirection, and it was given by a pickpocket, like one of the world's best pickpockets. And I thought, well, that's really appropriate considering what we dealt with in Ottawa was a pickpocket on a massive scale. It wasn't one individual. There's an entire network behind it. The big con from Cuidado en Residencia. My Spanish is tonight's going to be interesting. The big con wants to keep the status quo and wait until the next elections with Poilievre or Smith in the cards. Yeah, I mean, the idea is just they want to consolidate a voting bloc. That's what this is all about. That's why Big Con Canada Inc. Sabotaged us, because they just wanted to take all that momentum that we build and make them the conservative voting bloc. That's what they were doing. It was pretty simple. And then once Aaron O'Toole was gone, then it's like, okay, shut it down now. And there's one person, at least. There was a bunch of people, but amongst the little board there was one person that was saying, I mean, they didn't say this. They just, they didn't say this is what they were doing. Again, they're a pickpocket, right? So they were doing all these things that were counter to the goals of the Freedom Convoy, like, oh, let's, after they started meeting with the city and said, oh, let's talk to the city. And I said, no, we're here to end mandates. The city can't end mandates. Moving trucks and consolidating them and shrinking the size of the convoy protest by 75% is not going to end mandates and end Arrive Can. So I said, no, go get our money, is what I said. But anyways, did you see, Chris, that Christine posted that she got a ride in a truck and she's now officially a trucker? Christine, the MEP. Well, there you go. There's the grift. That's Big Con Canada Inc. And ironically, the name Con is relevant to the person who paid for a lot of that stuff. That is the Con establishment that is trying to consolidate your support around fake news, rebel news, and lie to you and put this all together. What they're going to do next, by the way, is they're going to remove, you'll see over time, they're going to remove, because I know how this whole apparatus works. This is political strategy. This is how they operate all the time. They're going to take Hurt Locker Tom. You notice he's been quieter and quieter as time goes on. They're going to take Hurt Locker Tom, and they're going to take what I call Michael Avenatti. They're going to take the two of them. They're going to slowly disappear over time, and they're going to replace them with Andy Lee and Eva. So you'll have Andy Lee, Eva, and Tamara. And the grift will be, these are the three girls who fought for our freedom and mothers from Western Canada, and they came together and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, this is just more political theater and designed to suck as many dollars out of you as possible. That's, which is, I mean, it's nothing new. It's how they work. But, during the convoy, when all of this was going on, we didn't have a million things already to deal with, but this plane from hell. I wish I had a time machine. Oh my God, if I had a time, because I knew something was up with this. I knew it, and that's why I was so adversarial. And then when I got a call from a friend of mine who's quite famous saying, "Get rid of them as quickly as possible," that was the other red flag, and. It was so funny. They put in one of them said, "Oh, Dichter was never around. I was always around and never around simultaneously. It's great." And the reality was, obviously, I was there the entire time. Broken leg, couldn't go anywhere. And you all saw. I mean, sure, many of you saw that every day I was doing at least 2 or 3 interviews from the media room with the media team. But what I was doing is I was ignoring this fake legal team that was coming in trying to take over. That's what I was ignoring them because they're irrelevant. And just once in a while, I would fire a shot saying, stop with the bullshit, go get our money and go fight the injunction. You're lawyers, that's what you're here for. But they clearly were there for a different reason. But anyways, there was... the way this works with Big Con Canada Inc. and this whole apparatus, I become the one to say no to this this strategy where they're trying to consolidate the voting bloc and say we're here to end mandates. And what happens? Big Con Canada Inc. uses their 50-cent army online to start spreading rumors. Oh, Dichter is whatever. They call me so many different things. Who knows? And I so don't care. I so don't care. It's whatever. The more names they call me, the more effective I know. More effective I've been. But it's the when they start. Oh, Dichter's a Fed. Dichter's this. Dichter is whatever. Blah blah blah. And so many people. The people who are really kind of. I don't want to say fringe because that's not fair. People who really don't understand the complexity behind the scenes, how politics works. I guess it's like a way how they manipulate. They can't govern for shit, but they can manipulate people. That's all they do. That's what they focus all their energy on, right? So what did they have to do? They had to smear me. They had to get all these people that were on Telegram, on Instagram, smearing me. Calling me, what was the glowy, calling me a glowy and all that sort of stuff, when the actual glowies were there trying to destroy the Freedom Convoy. But because I wouldn't shut up and they didn't know what to do with me, it was character assassination. But it's okay. It's okay because there's much more to come, I promise. Do you know they're being used for that, or are they oblivious? Tamara, Andy Lee, etc. I don't know. I really don't know. There have been, how should we say it? Well, there was that space a couple weeks ago, where before Andy Lee disappeared, Jen and Joe Rampart was hosting it. Joe Rampart and Dave O. Jen just came out and said, Andy, I'm just going to say it. Do you work for the government? And the pause was about that long. And then she responded, I cannot confirm nor deny that. What? What? And, I have a couple of friends who have been journalists their whole entire lives. I also know some independent younger journalists that are just starting their careers or mid-career, and all of them say, there's no way that's her information. There's no way that's her resource. I would need a team of 100 people to get that amount of information and data to distribute. Like, as one of them said to me, do you have any idea how long it takes me just to focus on one thing? Like, it takes me a month and hundreds of hours of looking at video and corroborating. But she does a month's worth of work every day. It's not her information. I'm like, I don't know. But apparently she now says she works for the government. So I don't know. There's a lot of people looking into this and investigating it right now, by the way. Not just me. So I want plausible deniability. This is not me. This is other people. Legitimately, and they'll come back to me and let me know their thoughts and opinions. But I try not to get involved. A real change will come when people realize the power of collective intelligence, voting, writing letters. Only a legitimate system. The goal of the WF is to create third world nations. I think the goals of people aligned with the WF is just to milk as much money out of all of us as possible. I once met a guy who's a banker who owns banks throughout Europe. The guy's a billionaire many times over. And I remember there was a conversation, me, him, and a couple of friends, and they said to him, like, what do you do with all this money? Like, in a nice way, we're joking and drinking around. And he just stopped and says, I just love to count it. I just love to see the number go up, like on his, I guess, net worth, balance sheet, whatever. And that's it. That became his obsession. That's his dopamine release, is when number go up. So I think there's part of it. Lavitt's boss in recent Twitter space, Andy Lee, was asked if she was working with the government, and she said that she cannot confirm nor deny that. Yeah, exactly. Angie says, I was in that space. Andy's answer and her demeanor afterward was shocking. Yeah, and Joe Rampart just reaffirms and kind of repeated what she said, and that how crazy it was. So I don't know. I'm going to reserve judgment. Maybe there's something more there that I don't know. I've always had a good relationship with Andy since I met her. Although I didn't meet her until the Convoy and after the Convoy. But and I asked Tamara, because Andy Lee reached out to me in the first few days, and she said, I asked Tamara, I'm like, who's this Andy Lee person? Is she a friend? And she said, oh, yeah, you can trust her. She's a good friend. And I'm like, okay, she's a journalist? She said, yeah, she's a journalist. Well, she was a candidate for the Maverick Party. I didn't know that until last week. Nobody told me that. She was a candidate for this fake Conservative Party. And when I say fake, I mean it's controlled by the Conservative Party of Canada, and it's designed to ensure that what was the Wexit movement didn't get any momentum. That's what the Maverick Party is. That's why it's staffed with all former Conservative MPs and Conservative staff. And I spoke to Tamara about that on the phone. I think the last time we spoke about it was about a month before the Convoy. And I said, Tamara, you got to know this is not a real party. Like, they had the brand. The most expensive thing in marketing is branding. They had branding. They had Wexit. They owned the space. And then they brought in, Jay, who is a Conservative Party member of Parliament who works under Malti Solberg, and all these other Conservative people. And then the first thing they did was change the name. And that's the only thing they had. And she said, yeah, I think I'm done with it. She was unhappy for a couple of reasons. And she said, I think I'm just not going to devote my time to it anymore, which is ironic that during the Convoy, they say, Tamara, Western separatist. I'm like, I just spoke to her like 4 weeks ago, and she said she's done with this. And she's just trying to figure out how to let them down nicely, so... Anyways, it is. So somebody was being dishonest somewhere. I don't know. I have no idea. Lisa says, regards to the Twitter space, it was also recorded. I can send the link to anyone who wants it. Lisa, if you're on Twitter or on Facebook, why don't you just post the link? And just so people can see it, so they know I'm not making stuff up. I'm telling you the things, how they transpired, what they mean. I don't know. I'm not going to try to project negative intent, but it was quite shocking. It's hard to balance trying to stay informed and following information, but not help grifters boost their profiles. There's so much of that. Honestly, Lavitz during it was making me crazy. It was making me crazy because we had there was a media strategy. It needed to be targeted and affected. We needed to end mandates, and we needed to end the Arrive Can. That's all we were there for. And then not everybody, certain people around us just wanted to turn it into their own personal platform to boost their profile. It's like, that's not what this is for. Like, you don't understand the seriousness and severity of what we're doing. And God forbid somebody says the wrong thing and causes heightened anxiety and it becomes violent. Like, you cannot have that. But it's okay, because we had the dirtbag lawyers from the plane from hell who flew in, and they caused the distrust and anxiety. And you notice after they got very aggressive after Aaron O'Toole was removed. That's when they put the accelerator on the gas to try to end the convoy. Anyways, and it's really quite shocking that narrative that came from Big Con Canada Inc., which is false, it's completely false, is the Rouleau report. That's the Rouleau report. It's their fake narrative that it was. I mean, I should say it's kind of a hybrid. They take the part from the liberals and the fake news media that, it was Mad Max and pandemonium, and then they take the Big Con Canada one that it was getting out of hand, and it was disorganized or whatever. Like, no. We had command centers. We had all sorts. The only thing it was disorganized because people were sabotaging us. We're building the house as they're trying to pull down the footings. Thank you, Big Con Canada Inc. So if you're a trucker and you got arrested, well, I have news for you. You know who you can blame? You can blame Big Con Canada Inc. There was that meme that went around about Hurt Locker Tom, Freedom Convoy. Do you need help kettling some trucks? It was so good. Oh, Lisa, what am I saying? Canadian Bella. Of course I know your Twitter account. I'm an idiot. I got you confused with with another person on local. Sorry, sweetheart. Yeah, Lisa, if you can, repost it on Twitter and just share it with people so they can see, they can listen. It's 5 hours long, but it's really the last, 45 minutes that they got into it, that came out, and it's still, like, I still don't know what to make of it. Like, I'm really confused. I don't know what that was, but maybe somebody's having a moment. Maybe, anyways, I'm trying not to project negative intent as much as possible. Amanda, I would love that. Great. Okay, so I think that's basically all I wanted to... Oh, and there's one more thing. So I'm going to be... what's it called? When I mentioned... let me just clear my thoughts. The first thing is when I mentioned that the current faces will change of the Big Con Canada Grift Inc. That's why they're trying to bring as many truckers as possible. And I think that's why they brought... There's a couple of... there's a trucking company that became represented by the JCCF. And I'm willing to bet it's that trucking company that they reached out to people to bring truckers to get involved in the grift, to suck as much money out of you as possible. Because God forbid... myself, Tamara, Chad, Chris Guerra, Joe, Jason, and there's now a bunch of other truckers who have charges who don't have representation. God forbid actual truckers get some donation money for our legal fees. Like, I got to do another legal challenge now, and I'm going to be upping it's a smaller thing, but it's around the Rouleau Commission, but I'm going to have to up my hours in the truck to cover the expense of this. Because those whores are sucking on to the $5 million and distributing it everywhere. Like, is that what's paying for, for paying to artificially boost the platforms of people on Facebook and on Twitter? Because the numbers are just not possible. You know, I saw there was, Fat Keith was doing he posted a thing on Twitter, and the guy's got 3,000 views or something, and it was really kind of, it was basically targeting me. It was more defamatory claims against me, and it got 160,000 views. Well, that's not possible. You know, when Jordan Peterson retweets me, that'll get between 50 and 80,000 sometimes views, sometimes impressions. It's not possible. They're dumping money into this. Is that money that they raised for the truckers, that the truckers are getting nothing, but they're using them to smear and defame the truckers? They might have some problems if they continue that, right? But anyways, it is what it is. I will have an announcement in the next week or so about something coming up, and I'll let you all know. We'll find out. Hopefully it will work and be a good strategy, but there are some good things in the air, good things happening. Yeah, it's frustrating, the whole, whatever it is, the whole, sabotage and, doing to myself what they did to James O'Keefe. It's not surprising. This happens all the time from the Big Con Canada apparatus. But we have something to combat the Rouleau Commission and all the fake narratives and whatever. And that's this, right? For those of you on the Chinese spyware, you have this, honkingforfreedom.com. You have this story that if anybody says, oh, I read the report, I read the commission, whatever. Well, if you read something that was, how many pages was that, 2,000 pages? Then you can read a couple of 100 pages here that tells the truth. It's so much easier to tell the truth, right? You can be so much more concise and more fluid. Oh, Marcella, the Twitter space isn't tonight, it's tomorrow. But anyways, that is going to be your counter. The truth is the counter to this fake report, the Rouleau Wilson report or the Rouleau BigCon Canada report, whatever you want to call it. This is your hedge against this, and this is what will help wake people's minds up. So, and Lisa says, great read, and Lisa was the very first person to finish reading this book. Will Jonker, yes. I think it only makes sense because they stupidly joined the JCCF, and I know why, but they don't know the background and the history of the JCCF. If they had, like I was explained during the Freedom Convoy, they might have been a little bit more apprehensive to do so. Lisa loved the book. Ben Andrea told me it's tomorrow, not today. Yes, the Twitter space is tomorrow. So forget that. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Wednesday, Twitter space, solamente en español, ninguna palabra en inglés. That's at least the goal, right? And we'll try. Okay, so I have something for Jess. Jessie, you here? Jessie's here. All right, so Jessie was asking me about Bitcoin, and I'm not going to pivot too much, right? But she was asking me about a supply cap for Bitcoin. I'll get back to the other stuff in a second. I just want to make sure I don't forget this. That she said, I don't understand the supply cap, all that sort of stuff. Bitcoin has a supply cap. There's only 21 million Bitcoins. And Jesse, I'm just going to give you this statement. Think about it. And yeah, I see you. I like this description by Michael Saylor. Bitcoin is a digital bank account, like you have a bank account, a digital bank account when you log online. Bitcoin is a digital bank account in cyberspace. And in that bank account, the maximum that can ever be in that account is 21 million. So they're mining Bitcoin now, or printing money. Mining is the equivalent of printing money for Bitcoin. So they're printing Bitcoin now to get to the maximum 21 million. That will be reached by the year, we think, 2142. Okay? But already over 19 million have been mined. So we're only going to have 2 million more Bitcoin mined over the next 120 to 140 years. Okay? That's never happened before. That is a digitally verifiable scarce asset that you know algorithmically how many Bitcoin it is, how many Bitcoin will exist. And for a whole bunch of reasons, I'm not going to get into complications right now because we need an entire episode to explain it. What you're buying when you buy Bitcoin is, and using Bitcoin to transact, because that's what it's for, the same way gold coins used to be used to transact, you're buying a percentage of that 21 million coins, and then you're selling a percentage when you transact and you're buying more, or if you're mining or whatever. That's all Bitcoin is. Pretty simple. And it's decentralized amongst millions of computers around the world, meaning there's no central point of failure, and that means it can never be turned off. And that's why Bitcoin was the only money that got through to the truckers during the Freedom Convoy. Minus cash that was, I guess cash was handed out. I don't know the details. Chad probably knows a little bit more about it, but I know there's some people who decided they were going to control it, which is people, I guess, related to BigCon Canada Inc. They really are some greedy motherfuckers. I got to be honest. I've never seen such greedy mofos in my life than the leeches that came on that plane. I don't know how much money Canada's Michael Avenatti made off the Freedom Convoy, but we're going to find out. Anyways, they were in the Freedom Occupation film. That was produced by... Well, I don't want to make too many enemies because there's some people who get involved with BigCon Canada Inc. and they don't know that they're part of it. But the fact that, they would call, like, Will, what do you think? You know, brother. They called it, there's one word not to use. One word not to use. And that is the smear that came out of the mouth of Trudeau. which was occupation. That is an intentional smear. Now, I sometimes often use the smear, capture it, and throw it back. But that's not it. If they think that's what they're doing from a communication standpoint, maybe they just don't know, they failed tremendously. I would never go near that word. The only time I may mention that word, it's to say no, that's not what it was. And Will says, hated the film. Right on, brother. Right on. Oh, and I got to do a little test. Let me go to the Discord because we're still beta testing, and there's a live stream room, and I apparently last time didn't realize or didn't know to turn on the mic. So if anybody is in the Discord space, you can go to the live stream channel and just tell me if you can hear me and confirm it, or you can just confirm it later on Discord. I have it, open most of the time when I'm on the go now, just to kind of keep up to date with your updates. The other thing is there is some funny business going on with the evidence around the Public Order Emergency Commission. And somebody who is a strong supporter of us, who I have a lot of respect for, has apparently downloaded everything. So if the government or anyone in the government thinks they're going to memory hold it or bury it, if they do that, that's okay. I'll be putting up a website with all the all the evidence and data, and that might be a good opportunity to structure and organize the evidence better, so it becomes a little bit clearer to understand what you're looking at, because it can be all encompassing. There was, I think he said, 8,963 PDFs and another couple of hundred videos, if I'm not mistaken. So we have all of it. So that's not going to go away anytime soon. And if I can put something together for all of you so you can all access it and share it, so when people make certain claims about the convoy, you can just post the link and source it. That's at least our goal. That's what we're trying to do. So all of these things are good things. And the best thing is we see that the teacher with the very real prosthetic breasts was an epic troll, and he got all of this woke nonsense on the radar of normies. And because of that, he, in my opinion, is the hero of 2023. Let's say the truckers were the hero of 2022, and he was the hero of 2023. And he also proved something that I just touched on briefly there a second ago. But the strong, and we need to remember this frame when we're dealing with the woke supremacists, right? The strongest form of protest is amplification. Absorb and amplify, right? Adams talks about this. Cialdini talks about this. Many people in the persuasion space talk about this. Absorb it. That's why with CBDCs, I had this conversation in a Twitter space with people. People are worried about CBDCs. I don't think we're ever going to get them because they failed everywhere. Every jurisdiction they've tried. But when they say, the government says, oh, okay, great, well, we want to have access to all your money and see it, I say, great, because we're going to have a whole bunch of hackers in the world that are going to target corrupt politicians and gain access to their wallets so we can see where all their donations are coming from and where all their kickbacks are coming from and all the corruption's coming from. So we'll all be able to see it. So I think that's great. CBDCs are dead, right? They can't handle transparency. They can't handle the truth. And when that magnifying glass gets focused on them as well, then they'll reject it. And so that's why I'm not terribly worried about it. Anyways, okay, that's if you have any other comments, let me know because I got to shut down. We have a massive snowstorm going on right now, which of course means I need to get in my truck and drive in this stuff and get myself down to the U.S. And God, I hope it's not snowing the entire way. and I got why is it important to know about Latin America? Because Trudeau regime uses the anti-terrorist tactic to suppress civil rights. This was the history of Latin America, at least from the 1970s. I'll tell you something else. I think did I tell this story last stream? I don't know. I'll tell it again. When I was in Colombia in 2015, I think it was. I mean, I'm usually there every year, every couple of years. But I was out for dinner with some friends, and one of my friends, who is very successful, politically connected, just for business purposes. Sorry, keep getting messages. My friend said to me when we were out for drinks, he said, "Why are Canadian politicians meddling in Colombian politics?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you have people from your parliament who are down here working behind the scenes," and he knows because he owns a finca. He's kind of a little bit more in tune with what's going on there, and they keep trying to broker some deal with the terrorists, with FARC, the communist guerrillas. And we don't want anything to do with them. We don't want them. We want them dead. And they're almost dead. Like, we've wiped them out. What is the Canadian, why are people from Canada, members of parliament, coming down here? And I can't remember if it was before or after the election. Forgive me. And he was referring specifically to the Liberal Party. He said, "I don't know what the Liberal Party is or who they are, but they're coming here, brokering a deal with these communist terrorists. Why are they doing that?" I don't know. Well, fast forward many years, one of the people who was linked to one of these paramilitary groups that Colombia is difficult, sometimes, especially in the paramilitary sphere. I don't want to get into it. I'm not going into it. It's really complicated. Who's on what side when? That always seems to be changing. But one of these people, who are kind of I'm trying to use my words carefully and select the right words. Let's just say one of these people who are involved, who are not on the good side, who were sometimes killing people and a representative of those organizations that were kidnapping and killing people. He, shortly after this peace deal that was brokered by the Canadians, by the Liberal members of Parliament, was elected to Parliament. And he's now the president of Colombia. So between 2015 and 2023, they got these people in the government through political entryism, and now the guy was elected president. And there's no such thing as a legitimate election in Latin America. We all know how corrupt it is down there. So that's why it's important, because it's the similar tactics all over the place. We talk about the globalists, the leftist globalists. They're operating in countries all over the world. And it's not necessarily that they're always, there's one Dr. Evil at the top who tells everybody what to do. It's just they're philosophically aligned. They don't even need to talk to each other just because they have this similar worldview, and this cancer is spreading all over the world. So that's why it's important. If we understand Latin American politics, at this point, if you understand Latin American politics, you understand Canadian politics. I never thought it would be this corrupt here. I always thought, the corruption is Latin America, but Canada is pretty stable and simple. No, we are just as corrupt as Latin America. The only difference is you can't bribe a police officer on the street, although I argue that that's going to change in the near future as well. Maybe I know your friend in Canada redacted the mining legislation in Colombia and paid parliamentary forces. I sent you an email to keep in contact. All right, and are you going to be, if you are in the Twitter space tomorrow, join the Twitter space tomorrow. I'll probably be a little rough in Spanish, but I want to start to do these things regularly. When I was in Colombia last, after 2 weeks, I was pretty much back to where I should be in terms of my Spanish, and we'll do what we can. So I'm going to try to do these more frequently, so we can not only bridge this gap with Latin America and North America, but I also want to practice my Spanish. And if you're in Canada and you don't understand Spanish, we'll do the same in English. We're going to try to figure out, schedule to do all this. Even though Klaus Schwab looks like Dr. Evil. Yeah, he looks and sounds like Dr. Evil. Listen, Lavitz, what are you talking about? A left-wing German is going to solve the world's problems. What could go wrong, right? Oh, wait, sorry. The other guy was Austrian. Oh, wait, so is Klaus. Isn't he Austrian as well? It's just so crazy. Anyways, it is what it is. But I don't think Klaus has nearly as much power as people think. I think he's running a bribery racket and a money laundering racket. And people are there just for the bucks, just for the Benjamins. And some people go along with it. Some people are just trying to enrich themselves and profiteer, and then they move on. So, because from what I understand, a lot of people just think he's a joke. There's people who just go there think he's the worst of a used car salesman. They completely delegitimize him. But they'll go because there's some monetary interest that helps them. But anyways, not that he's not problematic. He is. And all the people around Soros who are taking all his money and trying to funnel it there, who are probably just taking a kickback on it. Because I don't know if you guys realize, Soros is kind of a vegetable. He has no idea what's going on. I think he's just surrounded by people who tell them, oh, yeah, we're going to give to this cause. This is going to be good. This is going to help people. Either that or the George Gammon theory. He thinks that Soros has been for many years being, I don't want to use the term blackmailed, but, threats of, oh, support this cause, because if you don't support this cause, maybe the mob will start to turn on you and your organizations. I don't know. Very interesting theory. But we'll talk about that more on another stream. And I think because of the whole point in why is that important, because I think the binary worldview is a problem. Things are really complex. It's not good guys and bad guys in the world. Everybody's on a spectrum. When I can finally get a whiteboard here, I want to walk through some of that I explained on Michaela Peterson's podcast and recently Robert Breedlove's podcast, which will be released sometime next month, and where I talk a little bit about that. Larry Fink is truly dangerous. I don't know, because he also has made some statements in the past, month, 6 weeks, combating the woke mob and saying that things have gone too far. I think these people are just we're ideologically driven around freedom. I think their worldview is just about money, and they'll just go wherever the easy money is and the largest pile of money is. And I think that's what Larry Fink is. But I could be wrong. He could be ideologically driven. But I found more times than not, especially people in the financial sector, they're more like they're like a Gordon Gekko. If you saw the movie Wall Street, I think that's what these people are. And that's not ideologically driven. That is just money. And there's definitely some control. And the ESG and SDG grift, that I think is just about money. That's exploiting programs to try to enrich themselves. And when it wasn't working, that's when Larry Fink came out and said, oh, yeah, maybe this ESG thing is not good. Not because he cares about ESG, because it's just not making him, his firm's money the way they thought they was. I could be wrong. But that's, I'm open to being shown proof of the opposite, that they're ideologically driven. I'm cool with that because nobody really knows for certain. But I think we also got to try not to project onto people so much. That's not helpful, But I do, believe me, I understand the concern. And that firm is definitely parasitic. There's no question. Okay, so I think on that note, I have to go play in the snow. And today's probably going to be a much longer trip than normal. But thank God for coffee and truck stops. Have an awesome day. I got to run.